Welcome to K6 Wellness Revolution, where we believe health is worth fighting for. This podcast focuses on all things related to natural health, wellness, and vibrant living. We know your time is valuable, and I'm honored that you're spending some of it here. So get ready, because the Wellness Revolution starts right now. Welcome to the K6 Wellness Revolution podcast. My name is Sharon. I'm the owner of K6 Wellness Center in Dallas, Texas, and I'll be your host. And I'm joined, as always, by Elena. Elena, tell me something new. Tell me something different about you.
Well, I was this many years old when I learned the technical name for the longest word, or fear of the longest words, hippopotamontisequipedaliophobia. Thankfully, our topic today is only a 4-letter word. Right.
Well, I want to know what is the phobia? Hippopotamus?
Fear of long words.
Oh, yeah, I missed that. All right.
And I couldn't really say it. You're better off spelling supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. But there you go. We all learned something today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, today we're going to be interviewing Dr. Greg Howard, the owner of TrueRife. Dr. Howard, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Tell us a little bit about you and your background and kind of what led you up to where you're at today.
So I am a medical doctor trained at the University of Texas, did internal medicine, did an internship in internal medicine. So I was trained that way. And then, but even before I went to medical school, I was a pharmacist, and that I became a pharmacist to pay my way through medical school. So then I did about 20 some years of anesthesia, and so my wife and I, both physicians, both anesthesiologists. And then about 12 years ago, we got kind of sidetracked off into alternative healthcare. And so started doing cancer research, started using equipment like TrueRife, pulse electromagnetic field devices. And so our houses, we have many of them. We've used just so many devices. And then about 2 years ago, I stumbled onto a TrueRife machine, and I was at a conference, and I bought one because I buy every gadget like that, and it sat in my house for about I don't know, 6 months. I never even used it, and then my wife and I, we both run and do athletic type things. I was running one morning and pulled a calf muscle. So I decided, hey, it's time to use a Rife machine. So I injected my calf with a peptide. I don't know if you know about peptides. That's kind of a controversial subject. They just got banned by the FDA.
We could go deep in peptides. That's definitely a whole
we could go deep into peptides. So anyway, I injected my calf with some BPC 157, and then ran about 90 minutes of Rife programs. And my calf, and this is in the evening because I waited all day. I thought maybe this thing's going to get better, but I realized about 8 o'clock in the evening, this is going to be 3 or 4 weeks before this thing heals up. So I'm like, all right, let's give it a shot. So within 90 minutes of I ran about 90 minutes of TrueRife programs and injected the BPC, but BPC usually doesn't have an immediate effect like that.
Right.
And but within 90 minutes, my calf felt completely normal. I was like, well, all right, I took care of the pain, but when I wake up in the morning, it's gonna be painful and gonna take some rehab. But when I got up in the morning, it felt normal, like really normal. And so I'm like, wow.
What program did you run?
I ran accelerated healing, and then I think that I ran a pain program. I don't remember what pain program. We have a bunch of new pain programs now.
Yes.
But, so it was probably pain biobasic and accelerated healing. And
it's a good combination.
Yeah, good combination. And so anyway, my calf muscle, it felt healed. And I went and I played golf and did everything I was going to do. And I mean, it never came back. And I'm like, holy cow. So then I was on the lookout for other people with strained muscles and, similar type injuries. So I found a few, did exactly the same thing on them, and exactly the same thing happened. Cleared them up really, really quick. So there seemed to be something really good about the frequencies and or BPC 157, which I've been using BPC 157 and kind of predictably knew what was going to happen with that. And but the combo seemed great. So I wound up buying 3 machines and kind of spreading them around, had other people use them, and said, I just wanted feedback on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was buying the 3rd machine, I jokingly said to Mike Tigelaar, which is the owner and inventor of TrueRife, I says, hey, when are you going to sell this company? And he said, well, I just put it for sale last week. And so I kind of knew my whole life is filled with these just strange coincidences. And I'm like, okay, I think I'm supposed to buy this company. So, but I don't know anything about running a company. I'm a medical doctor. So I needed someone to help me run a company. And so I found Jake Daniels. He's the other owner of TrueRife. And he owned Arctic Custom Coolers. That's kind of like a Yeti. He owned that company.
I own a few Arctics.
Yeah. So that he owned the custom shop when you customize the cups and the coolers and all that. So he owned that piece of it, and he had sold that company a year or two before. And so he and I, we were friends, and we played a lot of golf together. And in a previous life, he was a struggling professional golfer, tried to make it as a professional golfer. So we played a lot of golf together, and he wasn't doing much and I wasn't doing much. So I said, let's buy TrueRife together. So anyway, we did. And we went up and spent a horrible winter in Michigan with Mike, because we're from Texas.
Yeah.
We don't have winters like that.
Yeah.
And we got snowed in a couple of times. But anyway, we spent about 6 months with Mike learning how to run the company. And then several of the employees, they came down, they wanted to still keep working for TrueRife. And so we relocated about a year ago in Texas, and with some of the key employees. And so we had the manufacturing and all that. And so anyway, that's the TrueRife story. That's how we got there.
That's awesome. I love Rife. I've acquired several systems through the years, and I've always said, having one at home is an invaluable resource in so many situations. And it's one of those things, though, it seems to be shrouded in mystery. And I think with Rife technology in general, there are a lot of ideas about it. There are a lot of misconceptions about it. Yeah. And so we're really excited to have you on today, Dr. Howard, just to kind of set us straight and talk to us about TrueRife, but all that Rife technology, and especially as it's put together and organized in these great programs that TrueRife has, as far as, promises for improving people's health. So, you know, thanks for being here, but let's kind of jump in, and give us your layperson elevator speech. What's Rife?
Yeah.
That's the first thing people ask, right?
Yeah. So people have used pulse electromagnetic field, and they've used microcurrent. So a beamer mat is a pulse electromagnetic field, and that's a pretty popular. That would be a competitor of ours. That's more in the used for athletics and maybe circulation, but it doesn't have a lot of frequencies involved. It's very limited in that way. And then other people would argue that microcurrent is better than pulse electromagnetic field. And so microcurrent, the TrueRife foot bath is a microcurrent. And so so we don't have to get in the argument which one is better, microcurrent or pulse magnetic field. We have them both. And then the other thing that's different about TrueRife is we incorporate grounding. And so the grounding pulls the energy through your body. And there's many different brands of Rife machines. And I think that we're the only ones that use a ground. And I think that that's to their detriment. Everyone should be using a ground. And I don't know originally if Dr. Royal Rife, and we can talk about that, the history behind it. I don't know if he used a ground or not, to be honest. And Mike Tigelaar came up with that idea, and it made complete sense because you don't want to just keep putting a bunch of energy in someone. At first, you feel great, but then after a while, maybe a week or a month, you can kind of overload yourself like a battery, and it becomes an agitation.
I think we've seen that a lot of the time. People just want to do more and more and more, and that's not always the solution.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people who say, oh, you don't have to ground, but I think it does make a difference. And I've actually seen people develop EMF sensitivity from just rifing all the time.
Yeah.
Not grounded for sure.
And we've, so people talk about a Herxheimer reaction. And so some people in the audience might not know what a Herxheimer reaction is, but that's the first time you treat something, they talk about a die-off. So you feel sick before you get better. And that could last an hour, a day, maybe even up to a week. But and that's a theory. And so I'm beginning to think that part of a Herxheimer reaction is not really a die-off of pathogens. And that's really, most people think that that's what it is. Well, we started experimenting, just running programs that would have nothing to do with killing a pathogen. And there's certain people that will have a Herxheimer reaction just from that. So what we do and what we figured out is TrueRife in all pulse electric magnetic field is some combination of electric and magnetic field. And I'm getting a little bit deep in it, but there's a lot of people that even manufacturers of this type of equipment, they haven't really experimented that much and they don't really even know what they're selling. And so we hired a chief technology officer and literally spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. We may even be approaching $1 million that we spent in the last year updating the equipment, the TrueRife equipment, and also understanding how to make it better. And so we have all these different oscilloscopes and tri-field meters and all these things. So we can measure all this and we know exactly what we're doing and how we can make it better. And so, for instance, like when you're using a bulb, it's 50%, roughly 50% magnetic and 50% electric. Most people, what we've experimented with, the magnetic, they don't have a Herxheimer reaction to it. It's the electric. And so anyway, and so in the next 6 months, we're going to have a completely magnetic mat for athletes. And because athletes, and I really think that can't prove it yet, but I really think that the electric piece is better at killing things, pathogens, than the magnetic. Haven't proved that yet, but we think that, so an athlete, we wouldn't want to be killing things in an athlete, no reason. So we would just use a purely magnetic on them, and then they wouldn't get a Herxheimer reaction. So to take that one step further, TrueRife, we sponsor a professional triathlete. She's a 5-time world champion. And when she first used our equipment, she had an instant Herxheimer reaction. But I don't think it was a Herxheimer reaction. I think she was so overtrained that she just felt bad. And it was almost like you say, an EMF type thing. Yeah. And so what we did and how we made her better initially, we just had her ground. And then we have these TrueRife relief rings and they plug into the phone. I don't know have you guys used those yet or not?
No, I have not used those yet.
They're little little rings that plug into the phone, and there's only about a dozen programs, but those rings they only produce a magnetic field. So we had Leslie Pedersen only use the relief rings, put them on an acupuncture spot on her wrist, and ground. And within 2 months, she hadn't won a professional race in about 5 years. Within 2 months, she won a professional race, and some short period of time, within a couple months later, finished 5th in the world. And I think that, so really, we didn't do that much for her. We just did grounding, put in a little bit of energy, and just kind of balanced her out. And so that's really, so the TrueRife equipment it's just a tool, you know. Yeah. It does some interesting things. We're trying to figure out how it works and more, because a lot of the stuff's just anecdotal. We just know, run this program, and there's books. There's textbooks with all the frequencies. So people just put together a bunch of frequencies, and there's some interesting commands that people on Facebook get all worked up about, do you use this command or that? There's crazy
Yeah.
names to them like fuzz and convergence and all this, but no one really knows if it works because no one ever put any science to it. So
Yeah.
anyway, we're trying to put some science to all this.
Well, and I love that because everyone wants to break it down on a scientific level. And so much of what I tell people is the frequencies work. And if you try it, you're going to know. I mean,
Yeah.
you will feel it one way or the other.
Yep.
And, we use it for a variety of things, a variety of ailments. But in
Yep.
your opinion, would you say there are specific conditions or situations where Rife is particularly effective?
Yeah, like pain,
Mm-hmm.
sleep. When I first came to TrueRife and we bought the company, I wanted something that would work like within minutes or an hour, because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people they would prove it to me. How are you going to make me
Exactly.
feel better? And they want to know something within an hour, maybe within minutes. And we didn't, Pain Bio Basic was as close as any program that we had to make someone feel different in a few minutes.
And
So
we use that one a lot the same way. Yeah, that's a big
yep,
one. It's like, okay,
that's a big one.
proof in the pudding. Here we
Yep.
go.
And so what I set out to do was to see if I could make a program for pain and sleep that would work instantaneously and predictably. And so I don't know, took maybe a month and started playing around with Mike Tiglar was there, so he was mentoring me on everything. And we just started playing around with different frequencies, and I wanted to see within seconds if we could get a difference. So we started doing crazy things like we wanted to pull the energy through the body really quickly. So we started putting the ground pad right on the skin. We put conductive gel on the skin, and yeah. And I don't know if you guys do that or not, but that'll make it really everything speed up. And
Yeah.
so within, and so we,
That would kind of put some people off, though. I feel like that is the potential to scare some people, because I know, like, even for me, one of my first experiences with Rife,
yeah.
I walked into a room where Rife was being run, and
Mhm.
all of a sudden I felt like my teeth were going to explode out of my head. I mean,
You're one of those. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
left out of the room and I was
Yeah.
like, what was that? I had no
Yeah.
idea. And it was, I think it was maybe like a parasite program or something.
Yeah.
And I walked back in and that pain was immediate. And I thought,
Yeah.
oh, goodness, I don't, who knows, but it made a believer out of me in seconds, and we didn't need conductive gel. but
Yeah.
not
Right.
everybody
Right.
feels that, right? I mean, we all have our
Yeah.
own experiences, but yeah, you can feel something really fast.
Yeah.
We'll have to play with the conductive gel.
Yeah. So people that are in the audience that are watching us that, are going to have Rife machines. It's conductive gel 360, and you buy it on Amazon for about $8 for a gigantic tube of it. It's very, very inexpensive. And
Yeah.
and if anyone calls TrueRife, yeah, we'll tell them about it. I just don't have it in front of me, but it's a blue blue tube. And
Right.
but yeah, we experimented with a whole bunch of different conductive gels, and so that's really how I spend a lot of my time is. And this is what I love to do anyway, just play with stuff and to see, what works and what doesn't work. And
Honestly, I
then,
think that's how we've got most of our experiences, experimenting on ourselves first, because I
yeah,
personally own a machine as well.
yeah,
And, you try all these things to then see, oh, can I recommend it to this person with that problem? And, how will they react to this frequency?
yeah,
One of the first things we figured out with it, to the pain basic, we were using it for sleep and running the pain. And then we were like, oh, let's do this energy and vitality program too.
Oh
right,
my gosh.
Well, the
Yes.
lesson there is don't do it before you want to wake up in the morning. Do it when you're ready to wake up, because we found that for, I don't know if it was every single person, but almost every single person at least said, I woke up because we were just copying and pasting and stacking this over and you
yeah,
can't loop it. And then, because then people don't sleep, because
right,
guess what?
right,
They had energy and vitality at 1 a.m. when they really
right.
didn't want it.
Right,
That's
right,
actually the
right.
program that made my husband a believer that Rife wasn't just this kooky, weird thing. When
Yeah,
we were doing the overnight program, and this is before I knew how to properly stack the programs, experimenting on myself, energy and vitality, you wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning, like
yeah,
clockwork, every night that program ran. So that was
yeah,
really fun. It's like, okay, it wasn't fun to not sleep, but it was fun to be like, hey, this really works.
yeah. And then Mike Tigelaar, he wrote the program Insomnia DH, and then and that one runs all night long. So
Yes,
it
I
runs for
love
about
that.
an hour, and then it shuts off for a period of time, then runs again, but it runs on and off. So for those people that can get to sleep, but then don't stay to sleep. And so, yeah. And so then now we play around with people that have these Fitbits and different ways of measuring
Mm.
sleep and deep sleep, REM sleep, and all that. And so it looks like most people get on the average of about 15% more deep sleep, REM sleep, and total sleep when they run the Insomnia DH program. And that's the one that goes all night. And then if you want to stack an insomnia program, there's the Insomnia DH 72 minutes, which is, just 72 minutes, hour, 12 minutes. So you could have that, and then you could stack other programs throughout the night, because you couldn't stack with the insomnia program that's going on and off all night.
Gotcha.
So,
Yeah.
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 So I have a question. I actually have a couple of questions
Yeah.
based on the insomnia one. And I think this is something that, goes deeper to what are we doing with alternative health, and are we actually fixing, or are we band-aiding? And
Yeah.
so with the insomnia, what has been your experience using the insomnia program? Is it permanently curative? Or let's not use the word curative, because, we don't want to get
Yeah.
ourselves in trouble. But
Right. Right. Right.
how long do the effects last? And how many times do you think people are find? And I know it's not going to be the same for everybody, but how many times would somebody expect to do this program? How many nights? And do you do it consecutive nights, or do you take breaks?
Well, I'm going to answer your question in a roundabout way.
All
So
right.
you should be using a ground sheet at night.
Right.
And there's a lot of people that don't buy our equipment, and the first thing, or if they do, the first thing they buy is just like a ground sheet, right? And
Mhm.
and they so many of them call back within a week and say, "This is the best I've ever slept," and they're only using the ground sheet. They're not even running a program. So
And you
we
know
hear that.
what? If you have animals that sleep with you, what I have found is they will go to the grounding sheet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We have a little dog that, wants to be near us when we're running it on the couch. Yeah. Somehow they like the frequency, it's the grounding, but they'll sit right on us. So the energy is going through us, through the dog, and then out through the ground, right? So that the animals can feel it.
They
But
know. Animals know.
yeah, but I think that, and with the just using a grounding sheet or grounding pad, there's a lot of science behind that. So that's balancing the autonomic nervous system. That's because a lot of people that with chronic illness, they're stuck in fight or flight mode, and
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
they got to, and that's like back to the athletes. They're way overtrained. They just stress their body out, and so you add in more energy, they're not going to like it. So you want to rest of your life, you want to be sleeping with a ground sheet. And if I was in charge of healthcare for the United States or the world, the first thing I would do is buy a ground sheet for everyone, because they last for about ever,
Yeah.
and there's nothing to it. You just plug it into the ground socket of the wall and just leave it, and you're going to get treated. I mean, they might last for 5 or 10 years, and you're going to get over and over again. You're going to get the benefits out of that.
I've had
So
mine for over 10 years, and I got mine from TrueRife. And I think that's the easiest thing to get people introduced to over the
yeah,
years. We've had people buy them so easily because they're, more affordable to have
yeah,
something instant.
yeah. And then, so do you have one of the old orange salmon colored ones?
I do.
No, no, mine was right when it wasn't orange anymore. The
Ah,
picture was still orange, but the one I got was not.
I have one of
um,
the older ones. I don't know where it is anymore because I did update mine, but I have slept on a grounding sheet for years. And I don't think it's a coincidence that I don't have sleep problems.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And yeah, the newer ground sheets, we have since in the last year, we've upgraded twice on the ground sheets and
Okay.
ground pads. And so the newest ones are less than 2 months old, and they're more conductive, so they work great. But yeah, if I was in charge of healthcare and just lowering the cost of healthcare, improving at the least amount of money and the biggest bang, it would be a ground sheet. I mean, that's
Yeah, I
by a mile.
think I think you're exactly right, and it's one of the most basic things that we give people. We do whole body thermography here as one of our
Ah, yeah,
primary
yeah, yeah.
screening tools, and that's autonomic nervous system,
Yep, yep,
thermoregulatory
yep,
capacity, and one of the things that really picks up is, you know, it's not that it's diagnostic for this, but there is a signature that you find with people who are stuck in fight or flight all the
yep,
time. That sympathetic, they're just way too sympathetic dominant.
yep,
And one of the first things we tell them to do is you need a ground. You've got to go outside. And we try to well, first of all, they need sunlight, right?
yep, yep,
So many people live their lives inside. So just going outside and putting your bare feet on the ground is a great start. But you're exactly right. I don't think I promote the grounding sheets probably even like I should. We've sold them before, we just cleared them out.
yep.
But it's so important, and you can improve your sleep for people who don't make it through the night. That's the first place to start. And
Hey,
look
but
at just
Yeah,
sleep hygiene.
yeah.
What else is going on in your sleep environments?
Yeah, and people, so many people talk about evidence-based medicine, and I wouldn't call a ground sheet medicine, but it's improving health. And there's almost 100 studies on PubMed. PubMed is where the world literature, our government does a good thing, and they translate the world medical literature into English, and they put it on a government-sponsored website called PubMed, and
Yeah.
anyone can access it for free. And so just go on to PubMed and uh, type in grounding or earthing. The other word for it is earthing, right? A lot of times people will call with some. It's usually a weird issue that no one can get at.
oh yes.
As a medical doctor, I'm surprised how often I hear a diagnosis I'd never heard of. It's crazy. And then they say, I want to know the exact one or two frequencies that's going to cure this. I was
Oh
like,
my gosh,
no, 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 no,
yes.
no.
I
And
get
and
that
it's
all the
usually,
time.
yeah, yeah,
And we do the electro EAV testing, electroacupuncture according to Vol, which a lot of these bioresonance scanners. That's kind of the premise that it all plays off of. And you can use hair and saliva, and you can do remote testing, and sometimes it's like you say, you come up with these labels, or even, if Elena's testing somebody and I may test them, we may come up with the same organ dysfunction, but we may come up with different ways to remedy that if we're
yeah,
remedy testing. And the same could probably be said of Rife. There are probably multiple programs that you could go at it, different ways. I always tell people, look, there's always more than one way to skin a cat. And in
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
same goes for any health condition. But I think I love that you actually do the hair, the saliva, and then you develop a protocol and getting people beyond the name and over this idea of what is the frequency. Because I think that's one of the more frustrating things that we get asked is, just give me the frequency. And it's like,
yeah,
not going to be one frequency. And it's this idea of, oh, we have to kill everything. Do you? Because I don't
yeah,
think you really
right,
want to do that. First of all, it's
right,
not going to feel good. And
yeah,
then what do you leave behind? What is
yeah,
left in space if you
yeah,
do? And so, yeah, I'm curious to hear about, how you approach certain conditions like parasites. I mean, this is something we've had people who've been on reality TV shows, or they've taken too many clothes off in the rainforest for the TV camera,
yeah,
and
yeah,
they
yeah,
come back with real exotic bugs.
yeah,
And they get, unfortunately, within the medical care system, they kind of get pushed aside
yeah,
and or offered the wrong drug. Zoloft won't fix that.
yeah,
And they come to us and it's like, well, we're going to use Rife because that's a part of, what's going to help, but that's not the only thing. And there's still all of the other things that they have to take care of. But I guess that's a long segue into how do you go about getting people to embrace the idea of balance, that just because you have cancer or parasites or unknown infectious tooth abscess, it's not just about let's kill a pathogen. There's this idea of normalizing frequencies or strengthening the body's inherent defenses.
Like, you said, how do we deal with people that want just a frequency? So I think that the overall, yes, it's just an educational process. It's ongoing, and maybe people will watch these type of podcasts and realize, yeah, we just need to get a program going. Maybe it's a 90-day program. Have get tested and then see what it's going to take. Yeah,
And I feel like a lot of times when people come in thinking they've put all their eggs in the Rife basket,
yeah,
it's like, oh, but there's so much more to do here. Because we do want
yeah,
people to get well, and we don't want to give Rife technology a bad name by being short-sighted in how we deal with people coming in the door.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you want Rife, but guess what? You probably just want to get healthy too. And so here are the ways that we're going to do that. And so we check in with people along the way and say, okay, you've followed this recommendation for this many times, and let's see where we're at now. And we incorporate homeopathics, nutritionals. We do energy work, desensitization, work with allergic sensitivities, non-allergic sensitivities. So there is, it's a very comprehensive approach, but it works for all kinds of situations.
yeah.
So often with the Rife, most people coming to us have tried everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So whether they're coming in person or we're testing remotely, these are people who are so desperate. They're like, fine, sounds weird, sounds crazy. I don't understand it, but I'm ready to try it, because you have nothing to lose. And that's the beauty of frequencies. Yes, there are some frequencies, if used too much too soon, it can be too harsh and you can have detox symptoms. But for the most part, you're not going to injure yourself because it's so
Do you feel like are contraindications to using Rife technology, Dr. Howard?
Yeah, so we don't recommend people use it on kids less than 10. And we just had to, really, it's just legal reasons. So we get, something, the amount of electricity going through someone, the Rife machine is not very much.
Right.
But, and it's really hasn't, around the world, there's so many people have been using it. Just millions of hours, right? And there's really no reported side effects. And so, but we have to draw a line in the sand someplace. So medical legally, we say, if you're pregnant, don't do it, But Mike Tigelaar, his wife, she used it every day during her pregnancy. Again, fine. And then we here's a crazy question. So people say, instead of a foot bath, could we put the Ion Pro Wave in a bathtub? Of course, we say no, right? But have people done it? Yeah, they sent us pictures. Someone sent a picture of a small child, like less than 2 years old, floating in a bathtub with electricity going in the water. I'm like, the legal implications of that are just
This is
crazy.
the improper use of this equipment. Yeah, we don't recommend that either. But I will say, my oldest daughter, through I think it was her first pregnancy, she had some health issue come. I can't even remember what it was, but I didn't hesitate at all. I'd spoken to Mike, and I had no hesitation about using the Rife with her. Same thing, we use the lymphatic therapy, the Lymph Star, that uses frequency and current, and it's so little electricity, but it's so powerful in its therapeutic application. I recommended my daughter. I had her do it every week of her pregnancy to keep her ankles didn't swell. It does amazing things just to keep the lymphatic circulation. And the Rife has the ability to do the same thing.
So that's where we use it with precaution, of course, and in our pregnancy plans, but it's been helpful.
And then many people have used it that have a pacemaker in, and apparently it doesn't do anything with that. But the one that I would really worry about is a defibrillator. So a defibrillator would sense an abnormal electrical activity and give the patient a big shock to put
Oh
them back in
yeah.
a rhythm. And
Yeah.
so I would for sure. I mean, I definitely wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I think that really could do something. And then, if someone had real bad epilepsy, you know,
Mhm.
those triggers for epilepsy, who knows what they are, but I've never heard that someone had a problem and it triggered it. But in theory, I would think, I mean, I would shy away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
so I
agree.
have a question, Dr. Howard.
Yeah.
When it comes to cell phone use and laptop use with Rife, can you give us an answer on that once and for all? Because we've always been told don't use them when the Rife is going. How accurate is that?
As long as you're grounded really well, it'll no effect. But if you're not grounded well, that electricity that's going into you is going to eventually go someplace. And so if you're not grounded well, say the ground pad was on the outside of your shirt and you really weren't grounded very well, and your laptop is grounded. And so it's almost like a ground pad. So if you start touching your laptop, the energy is going to go out of your fingers into that laptop. And a lot of people would call us and say, hey, my laptop shocked me while I was using the Rife machine. No, no, no. The laptop didn't shock you. The energy came out of you and went into the laptop. And so, but as long as you're grounded really well, you can use that stuff because the energy is going to go out of you through the ground. And so that's when, if you're going to be doing that type of thing, you'd want to be using that conductive gel because, a lot of people, their skin is dry in the winter, that type of thing.
Sure.
A lot of people were putting the ground underneath the soles of their feet, right? Because they're thinking it's going to run all the way through their body. I mean, good in theory, but think about how thick the skin is on the bottom of some people's feet. There's no way that electricity is going through that thick, hard skin on the bottom of their feet. So they're probably not really grounded. And those people, yeah, you touch something metal and the energy is going to come out of you into that and you're going to feel you get a shock. But it's the equipment, TrueRife equipment does not damage a cell phone, doesn't damage a computer for sure.
Okay, good to clear that up. We still
Yep.
tell everyone, hey, read a book, have some
Yeah.
quiet time,
Just don't
really
plug.
relax.
Right.
So you can heal. Just take a break from the world for a moment,
Right.
or, or an hour.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we keep adult coloring books in our Rife room. We really try to encourage people to unplug just a little bit. Okay, so we're gonna coming kind of full circle here. I mean, I would love for you to give us kind of a spectrum of conditions, some of the most commonly cited conditions where Rife technology has been deemed not scientifically, because we know the science is lacking, but anecdotally, what do you find some of the most common conditions to use Rife with? Because we have our list. Our practice is a lot of autoimmune. We do get some cancer and a lot of allergic, which ends up being a lot of immune dysfunction. But what do you find people really seeking out and using the Rife successfully for?
In general terms, what does pulse electromagnetic field do? What does microcurrent do? And what does grounding do? And so that's a lot of stuff. And so that would be everything from lowering blood pressure, heart rate, balancing glucose, cortisol, mood. Just on and on. It's just so many things. But and I'm going to segue into something else. So with these really tough to treat chronic illnesses, and that's the type of people that want to use a Rife machine.
Mm-hmm.
And but like we've been talking, they're looking for this quick fix. They want to continue to do whatever their poor choices in lifestyle. They want to continue that, but
Yes.
they want the magic bullet. Well, there is no magic bullet. And but when you combine all this, yeah, you get great outcomes. And so I'll talk just a minute. So my wife and I, we started a nonprofit research foundation a few years ago called Hippocrates Research Foundation. So I'll give a little plug to that. The website is the web address myhrf.org. And so it turns out that almost every chronic disease from Alzheimer's, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, the answer is already published in peer-reviewed journals on how to treat and reverse all of it. And so what we're doing is, and no one can argue with it, but the reason it's not done is because it's just the way to do it doesn't generate very much money for anyone. So when people call and talk to us at TrueRife and talk to me, I do my best to steer them and give them medical, articles and how to use all this, put it together. And so most recently, we've reversed stage 4 cancer in people. And so I'm going to be on another podcast in less than a week on Tuesday. I'm going to be on the Drew Pruitt show. We're flying to LA and film that.
Very
And
good.
so interestingly, we didn't come up with anything novel. It was all in the medical literature. Some of it dates back almost 100 years.
Yeah.
And so, but it was just ignored. Either they didn't know how to piece it together or it didn't make enough money. And so I think that pulse magnetic field and grounding and microcurrent and all the coaching that you guys are doing, that's how people are really going to get healthy. And so, yeah, but we're able to reverse even stage 4 cancer. And so we want to have about 50 case studies, and we have roughly 40 patients around the world and clinics around the world. We don't have our own patients, but we coach people anywhere in the world. And
Right.
but they have their own doctor, and they can either do it or not do it. But we're going to supply them with the research. And so once they read the research, they can piece all this together, and yeah, they can reverse just about anything.
That's it's a gift to humanity. I mean, and you're right. It's out there, and most likely the big sin is that it's not profitable,
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
powers to be. So I think it's amazing that you're doing that kind of work. And I know for us, it's the same thing at K6 Wellness. We just want to, wherever the resources lie, we accrue the ones that we can, but we want to point people in the direction that's going to help them to feel better. And we love grounding. We love the microcurrent. And of course, we love our TrueRife machines.
yeah.
It's
Well, thanks.
such an integral part of so many people's journey to better health and recovery from all kinds of issues. And we'll leave
I
it at
think
that.
Yeah,
it does give people hope too when they discover something new with Rife.
Well, new to them.
Right,
yeah,
new to them. But
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I have tried everything else. Let's try this other piece. And so I do love that part. You've got, like we said, we have to set the expectations, but I love that it does give people something new for them to try.
Yeah.
well, and usually they feel somewhat better very
Yeah,
quickly, right?
yeah.
Maybe within hours or days, they feel better, and we're not going to harm anyone. And so the name of our research foundation, Hippocrates Research Foundation, and Dr. Hippocrates, one of the sayings, he had a lot of quotes, but first do no harm, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everything that we do, we're not going to set anyone backwards. You
Yeah.
can,
Mhm.
yeah. And so
And we'll
I
link
think that,
we will link to your nonprofit in the show
yep,
notes. So people who
yep,
want to get connected with you, you can find the
yeah,
link below
yeah.
this in our show notes. And yeah, absolutely. We so appreciate you. I feel like we have just scratched the surface, and we definitely want to have you back and have another conversation. And maybe we'll delve into a more narrow conversation topic, but we appreciate all the work that you're doing with this
Yeah.
technology and for the company, because we do love TrueRife. I think there's a lot of options out there, but TrueRife is really stuck to the high road, and there's a lot of integrity in the work that goes into the product that is offered up there. So I think we're going to call this a wrap for today, and we
Okay, great.
hope that Dr. Howard, thank you so much. We
Thank
hope that you,
you.
the listeners, have found our information valuable and helpful, we'd love to hear from you. If you watch this episode on YouTube, please like and subscribe, or on Rumble. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram. And for more information about Rife, you can visit us at k6wellness.com to schedule an appointment where we can figure out exactly what you need. And you can also visit straight from the source, TrueRife.com, TrueRife.com, and that will be in the show notes as well. But until next time, take care of yourself because your health is worth fighting for.
Well, Sharon and Lena, thanks for having me on. It was a pleasure.